Hi, my name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to the History Squad. Now, today's video is about Vlad III, commonly known as Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula stories. Now, let's see. Was he a monster? Or, as some would view, a national hero? Now, I've got to give you a warning. This is not for the faint-hearted or fans of soft diplomacy. There is some graphic descriptions, and as you can see, I've made a model, of impalement and medieval justice. So viewer discretion is advised. You will need a strong stomach. So you have been advised. So, Vlad the Impaler. Do you know, I've long wondered about Vlad III. Born in 1431 in what is now modern-day Romania. Apparently it was part of the Hungarian Empire back in 1431. Now, that part of Romania, it's interesting. It was the interface between the Orthodox Christian world and the Ottoman Turks, the Islam world. But there's an extra faction, if you like, coming from the West, was the Catholic Christian world. Wallachia was fought over by all of these different factions. Do you know, it is interesting. The stories I've taken for this video are from a translation from Old Russian, a pamphlet that was written not long after his death by a Russian monk. So this can be a bit confusing because there's a few Vlads floating around. Vlad II was the father of Vlad III. Both had the name Dracul, Order of the Dragon. But later on, Vlad III will become known as Vlad Tepes. Tepes meaning impaled in Romanian. Now, Vlad III had two brothers. One older brother, he was Macaire, and a younger brother called Radu the Handsome. Now, Vlad II, his dad, lost a battle and had to pay tribute to the Ottoman Turks, and he had to give over his two youngest sons as hostages. So poor old Vlad III to be hates the Turks. They whip him, they beat him because he's insolent, he won't do as he's told. Whereas Radu the Handsome caught the eye of Mehmed, who would later become Sultan. He will become the head of the forces of the Ottoman Empire. Read into that what you like. He caught the eye because Radu converted to Islam, became totally and completely educated under the Islamic system. He became one of them, whereas Vlad rebelled against it. He hated them with a venom. And it's while he was in captivity that he witnessed a certain kind of torture and execution. Death by impalement. Ouch. So whilst Vlad III is in captivity, when the Ottomans have got him, his father and older brother are actually killed in battle. So what the Turks are going to do is they're going to place Vlad III as the puppet ruler of Wallachia. Don't forget, though, there's an important point here, that Vlad had been brutalized by the Ottoman Turks. What he's witnessed, what he's seen, the way he's been treated, the violence that he has suffered has turned him totally and completely against the Ottoman Turks. And he's made now puppet ruler of Wallachia. So Vlad III is now on the throne of Wallachia, but he's a puppet. In other words, the Ottoman Turks rule it. He hated them. And what he'd witnessed there, impalings, beheadings, dismemberment, all of these things, he'd seen the lot. So he is now the puppet ruler of Wallachia, and the Ottoman Turks, they reckon they've got control of it when Hunyadi of the Kingdom of Hungary invades Wallachia and chases Vlad III away. He runs to Moldavia, where he is placed under the protection of his uncle, Bogdan II. Now, I've read a little bit into this, and it says, under the protection of Bogdan II. I'm not sure he was. I think he might have been actually made a prisoner, because what happens is Bogdan is later assassinated and Vlad flees to Hungary. Now, don't forget, Hungary were his enemy. Hunyadi, though, who is the head of the Hungarians, is impressed with Vlad III's knowledge of their enemy, the Ottoman Turks. So he's made a court advisor. Not only that, he is made the candidate for the throne of Wallachia. So old Vlad III is really getting up there. Then in 1456, Hungary invades Serbia and Vlad III invades Wallachia. And both invasions are successful. So Vlad owes allegiance to Hunyadi for helping him with his invasion of Wallachia. But just shortly after their victory over the Ottoman Empire, Hunyadi dies of the plague. And so begins the second reign of Vlad III, Prince Vlad III of Wallachia. And thus the reign of terror begins. So the first two stories of Vlad III, Vlad the Impaler, have nothing to do with impalement. It's quite something. And these are from the earliest manuscripts, translated from the Old Russian. In 1459, the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II sent emissaries to meet with Vlad III. This was in order to urge Vlad to pay the tributes that were owed, 10,000 ducats. This is a kind of a tax. And he also demanded 500 recruits for the Ottoman forces. But these emissaries, they showed total disrespect for Vlad. They bowed their heads, yes, but they refused to remove their headgear, their turbans. They were very aloof and treated him as a mere vassal. He's furious. So he decides to teach the Ottomans a lesson. And to drive home the point, he actually has their turbans nailed to their heads, which of course kills them. And then they're sent back to the Ottoman Turks. The other one is this. He wanted a stable, prosperous kingdom. He wanted Wallachia to be prosperous. But he felt they were being bothered by poor people, diseased people, and beggars in the streets. He just didn't like it. So he thought, we need to get rid of the problem. Now, a modern politician, wouldn't he? He would say, well, we need to help to, house the homeless, feed the hungry, and blah, blah, blah. But Vlad III had another idea. He had a massive barn made out of wood, and he invites all the poor people, the hungry, the homeless, and the beggars into this lovely barn made of wood. And he feeds them. And they are full to the brim with food, with wine. They are so grateful. And Vlad says to them, right, here you are fed. What more would you like from God? And they say, to be free of our disease, our illness, our homelessness, not to be poor anymore. And he says, right then. He leaves the hall, everybody's happy, there's still food there, and the doors are locked behind him, and they set fire to the barn and burn everybody inside alive. And he says, problem solved. They are no longer hungry. They are no longer homeless, and they are no longer diseased. Therefore, they are no longer a burden upon society. Can you see the way he was thinking? He wasn't thinking about the people, the downtrodden. He was thinking about the middle class, the upper class. We don't want to be bothered with all these people. So he dealt with the problem. He burnt them all alive. Now, I'm going to take this moment to explain to you. Impalement. How do you impale somebody? This is where the warning really comes in. You don't stick it up their bum and then stick them up. No. Bend them over a table, lie them flat, and then with a great big mallet and several men, you hammer that needle-sharp point straight up their anus. When it's in far enough, their hands are tied behind their back. You then hoist them up with a pulley system and drop them into the prepared hole. When I read this, I thought to myself, ugh, surely, yes, it's going to be agony, but they're not going to be alive for very long. It's going to burst their bowel, isn't it? Well, As you can see, I've made my model. My people has duly found out these are my friends. So this guy here, I sacrificed him for this film. It's a straightforward impalement. There's no finesse. It's gone into him, up into his bowel. They've hoisted him up, and the weight of him, the poles were often greased apparently. Slowly but surely it's burst out of his chest. This is there just as a deterrent now. There's no torture really, just above the first half an hour or so, and then bang, vital organs will have gone. But there's another one. If you had a really good executioner, here's one here, they would aim to get, oh, it's slightly bent there, look at that, to get the stake all the way through the body and to then come out of the mouth. This is hideous, isn't it? But it's visual. Okay, it's come through his chest, it's horrible, but the guy's face, you can still see it. But this guy, it's come through. He will have been dead long before these spikes came out. But as I read on and did some more investigating, as I do, I came across a piece which disturbed me. You see, I've seen torture for real. And it kind of blew my mind of what man can do, how cruel man and woman can be. How about this one? So here he is, bless him. And what they can do is when they insert the stake, I did warn you, follow the line of the spine. So it actually comes out through the back of their neck. But it's missed all of their vital organs. They also cauterize the wound around the anus to stop the bleeding. This man, this poor man, would hang there possibly for days. The one thing that could ruin it, so I read, is if it rained and the rain went down the pole, the spike into the wound, he would then become infected and he wouldn't last very long. The idea of this was torture to keep him alive. But his knowledge, Vlad III's knowledge for all of this, comes from his time as a captive with the Turks. Bodies being chopped up, hands being cut off, beheaded, dismembered. So the legend is that he would sit amongst his forest of impaled victims and he would feast. There is no actual evidence that he dipped his bread in the blood of his victims or he drank the blood of his victims. This is spurious, shall we say? But the fact that we've got his executioner here showing him all the body parts, don't forget this guy was so brutalized by the Turks in the first place. And most of his victims were in fact the Ottoman Turks themselves, because what happened is quite a story. So when Vlad sent the emissaries back with their turbans nailed to their heads, don't forget that little bit, Sultan Mehmed II was not a happy bunny. In fact, he sent an army to attack Vlad to invade Wallachia. Now, Vlad knew that he was outnumbered, so he used ambush techniques, night attacks, guerrilla tactics, and he killed and slaughtered a great many of the Ottomans. So Sultan Mehmed, he didn't give up on Vlad. He sent further emissaries trying to persuade Vlad to pay his tributes, to become part of the Ottoman Empire, the army. The Sultan's army, after all, was huge. So Vlad sent a message back to the Sultan. I will do more than just pay tribute, he says. I will serve you. I will bring my army and my treasury into your territory. Now, Vlad's message via the emissaries was sent back to the Sultan, who was overjoyed at the fact that Vlad III was going to join him. So he issued orders. Nobody is to harm Vlad III. When he enters our territory, he must be honoured. He must be safe. So on comes Vlad and his army, together with the emissaries. They move through Ottoman territory. For 5 days, they travel through Ottoman land. And then Vlad suddenly stops. He turns his entire army around and they retreat back towards Wallachia. They capture towns, villages, even a city or two, and they burn them. They kill women and children. Men are captured and impaled on the stakes. They burn the crops. They leave nothing more than a wasteland. And when he returns finally over the border to Wallachia, he sends the emissaries back with a message to the Sultan. I have served ye, and I will serve you some more. If you wish me to, I will come. In response, Sultan Mehmed sends an army of around 60,000 regular troops. There were extras as well. But when they reach the capital of Wallachia, Targovista, there are thousands of corpses, impaled, rotting there. When his army sees it, this forest of death, they retreat all the way back to Constantinople. Vlad's deterrent had worked, but there is an account of actually what the Sultan, or at least his army, witnessed. I'll read it to you. An Athenian historian named Chalkokondylis wrote that the Sultan Muhammad came across a field with stakes. Now, the area was about 2 miles long and half a mile wide, and there were large stakes upon which they could see the bodies of men, women, and children. Around 20,000 of them had been spitted. There were babies clinging to their mothers' bodies, and birds had made nests in their entrails. Now, the sight of this famous forest of the impaled had persuaded Mehmet II, this great conqueror, who was used to the horrors of war, to simply pull back from Targovista and retreat to Constantinople. Oh, Vlad was quite a soldier, quite a warrior, but he had very high principles. If you came back from a fight and you'd been wounded in the front, he would bestow gifts upon you, make sure that you're taken care of. But if you came back and you got an arrow in your back, you'd been shot running away, well, he'll have you impaled on a stake. That was the main punishment, torture and death. There was one ambassador came to see him, and Vlad actually had one of these stakes ready, gilded, nice and gold and greased. And if this ambassador had given the wrong answer to some of his riddles, he would have ended up on the stake, but he didn't. And there's another story of where a merchant was in Wallachia, and he overnight had left his wagon, and his gold had been stolen. And it was reported to Vlad, who hated thieves. He hated dishonesty. It's great, isn't it? You got this guy who'll impale you, but he hated dishonesty. And he said to the merchant, go back to your accommodation, and in the morning, your gold will be in your wagon. I will search for the thief. Now, the next morning, the merchant counts his gold. He finds it, he counts it, but there's an extra piece of gold. What he doesn't know is Vlad had actually put that gold there with the extra piece. And the merchant goes, Lord, my gold has returned. However, there is too much. This isn't my gold. And Vlad said, if you'd have claimed that extra piece of gold, you would have been dishonest, and I will have had you impaled. But you have actually answered correctly, so you will not be impaled. However, we've caught the thief. He will be impaled. So it wasn't just enemy soldiers, it was criminals. You cross Vlad the Impaler, you're going to pay for it. Now, he died in battle, December 1476. He was in the mid-40s, 44, 45. And there are lots of little stories how he died. But the one I like the most from the old Russian is his men were being successful. They were slashing into the Turks, and he loved it. He got so excited that he stood on a rock to watch his men slashing, and he's really shouting when he's hit from behind by a spear. They say it was one of his own men who was so excited he thought that Vlad was one of the enemy. Or was he betrayed and stabbed in the back by one of his own men for money? We'll never know exact truth. And there are so many legends and stories surrounding Vlad the Impaler. But in my opinion, I think he gets a bit of a bad press. Yeah, I know he was cruel. I know he was a bit of a sadist. He may have even had an illness where he bled blood from his tear duct. But I think he was a ruler of his time in one of the most hostile places, Wallachia, in modern-day Romania. I've become quite inspired by this story. I'm not going to go around impaling people. I thought I'd drive that point home. Now, I've been inspired by the history of Romania. I'd like to go and visit that country. I already know they make some good wine, but I'd like to visit some of their castles, maybe make a film, who knows. Interestingly, their most famous castle is Bran Castle, Bram Stoker's House of Dracula, but that's not Vlad III's castle. His is Poenari. 1,480 steps all the way up to that ruin, which is on the very top, the pinnacle of a crag of a little mountain there in the hills. That looks like the kind of place that I would like to go and have a visit. If you'd like to go, just remember 1,480 steps. You go up, you've got to come down. Well, I hope you found that video interesting. Didn't turn your stomach too much. If you did, like, share and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel further, why not have a look at joining our Patreon community? The link is in the description. Without further ado, a quick shout out to some of my Patreon members. We have Andrew Kroner, Torchbug11 and Melissa and Tony. Hey guys, thanks a million. Without you and your support, I would not be able to make these films. Bye for now.